What is up, everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of the Talk Nerdy With Me podcast, the nerdy show about all things video games. I'm your host, Nicholas Merrington, and I'll be riding solo for the first episode of this podcast series, but I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy video games. I hope you enjoy discussing video games, because we're going to be doing that an awful lot on this podcast. This is going to be a very short episode, as it is the first podcast I've made, and we're going to be covering two main topics. We're going to be talking about what the Talk Nerdy With Me podcast is, and secondly, we're going to be going over some fun video game questions, just so you can get to know me a bit better as a gamer. And I'd love to hear your answers to those questions as well, and you can reach me at the email address talknerdywithme21@gmail.com if you want to write in. But first of all, let's just get right into what is the Talk Nerdy With Me podcast. And the Talk Nerdy With Me podcast is, of course, all about video games. Here on this podcast, on this channel, we're going to be talking about all the things we love about video games. We're going to be having discussions. We're going to be having arguments. We're going to be giving our opinions. We're going to be reviewing games, giving our impressions on games. And we're going to be connecting with you guys, the audience, because we would love to get to know you. We would love for you to be a part of the show. We'd love for you to write in, to ask us questions, to provide topics that we can talk about on the show, and to answer questions that we put out to you guys. I'm so excited to connect with you, and I can't wait to see what happens. But for now, I hope you enjoy just a little taste of some background of my background in video games, rather, I should say, with just, I think, about 12 simple questions, I'd say, just regarding video games in my life. But before I start, let me just say, video games is one of my favorite hobbies, something I've enjoyed for so long in my life. I've grown up with them. I've had different iterations of how invested I've been in video games, depending on the console and my age. But I really fell in love with gaming and the story that you can tell through gaming at the beginning of the PS4 generation back in 2014 for me, when I got a PlayStation 4. And since then, I've been so involved and in love with discussions around video games and treating them more than just a game, but treating them as my favorite way to consume media. And yeah, we're just going to jump into a few fun questions. We're gonna see what happens. And the very first question is, Nicholas, what is your favorite game of all time? And I do have a definite answer, and that is Marvel Spider-Man on PlayStation 4. The game that absolutely blew my socks off. The game that I was so excited about leading up to it for the 2 years I think we had to wait from announcement until release. And this was a game that at the time I studied in Stellenbosch, and I did not have my PlayStation with me there. It was here back at home. So I came home for 1 week during the recess. I had to study for 2 tests that I needed to write when I returned back to campus. But I got Spider-Man that week, or at the beginning of that week, and I knew I had to finish it. I grinded, I got up early, I worked hard, I studied when I had to, but if I wasn't studying, I was playing Spider-Man, and I finished it before having to return to campus, and oh my word, was it worth it. It was such a beautiful game. It was everything I loved about my favorite superhero, combined with gameplay and a world that I love to explore. And to me, in my opinion, that game is a masterpiece for me. I loved every bit of it, and that is my favorite game of all time. Next, we're going to be talking about what is a game that I didn't expect to like, but I ended up liking at least a little bit, or maybe loving. And in this case, it's a game that my friend James, who will be featuring on the podcast in the weeks to come, he told me about a little game called Persona 5, which is a game that I never thought I'd try, let alone enjoy, simply because it was a JRPG, and I had never played a JRPG up until this point. But obviously with the whole coronavirus situation, we were forced to stay home for a very long time, and I was in a bit of a drought with video games. So I decided to give it a try. And I was pleasantly surprised that it was way more fun than I thought it was going to be. I sunk 25 to 30 hours into it. I beat the second palace. I did fall off it then, in between Palace 2 and 3, and I haven't gone back since, but it is waiting for me on my PS4 dashboard, so I will be returning to it one day. I'm pretty sure of that. Don't know about finishing it. I hope I finish it one day, but we will see what happens there. The next question is, what game have I spent the most hours in? And simply that's probably GTA 5. There is no clock in the game. There's no way for me to tell that definitely, but I have played this game across 2 generations of consoles. I got it on the Xbox 360, but then I also got it again on the PlayStation 4. And the amount of hours I've spent just in the story alone, but on top of that in GTA Online, which we used to play most weekends in high school, just jumping into the open world with my friends and messing around, doing some missions. A game I've probably easily spent at least 200 hours playing. Not necessarily by choice. That's not the game I would choose to have spent all my hours in, but it just happened to go that way with how much fun my friends and I ended up having playing that game together, especially in GTA Online, of course. Next up, we're going to be talking about what was the first game I ever remember playing. And for this, we go back to the PlayStation 1, which I did not own. Our family did not have a PlayStation 1, but my cousins did. And they had a few games. They had Gran Turismo and some other games I can't really remember, and a lot of demo discs, I'm sure. But the first game I really remember playing was 007 The World Is Not Enough. The James Bond game, licensed game on the PS1. And I just remember playing the tutorial level over and over again because that was the only level we could understand and our minds could comprehend at that age, where I was probably about 5 or 6 years old. And we would play through this tutorial level, we would beat it, and we knew it so well, and then we'd get to the very next level, would not understand the game mechanics, because obviously the tutorial level walked you through the level. Then you get to a level where they don't hold your hand anymore, and we could not figure out what to do, and we never made it past the second level. So a lot of memories with that game, but that was the first game that I can remember playing. Next, we're going to be talking about what game I last completed. The last game I completed was Rise of the Tomb Raider. After finishing The Last of Us Part 2, I needed a palate cleanser, but I was so in the mood for the kind of gameplay The Last of Us 2 had. I was not ready to replay The Last of Us, so I wanted something similar, and the PS Plus game for July happened to be Rise of the Tomb Raider, which I was very fortunate to get, and I really enjoyed it. I did just play through the story. I didn't do much of the challenge tombs or the side content, but I really enjoyed it, and this feeds into the next question, the question after the next question, because this question is first going to be, what am I currently playing? And the answer to that is Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima, I am absolutely in love with. Sucker Punch have done an amazing job. They've built such a beautiful world. They've made such fun gameplay, and they've made an engaging story so far that I've experienced. Probably about halfway through the game. I'm in Act 2, and all I can say about the game so far is good things. I've really enjoyed my time with it. I love Jin. I love Jin's story. I love the conflict going on inside of him. And I really just think that Sucker Punch absolutely knocked it out of the park with what I've seen so far. But as we were speaking about Tomb Raider, the question following that is, what game will I be playing next? And the answer to that is Shadow of the Tomb Raider. And obviously, that is in order, chronological order of the game. So after playing Rise, I was very excited about Shadow. Obviously, Ghosts came out in between, so I was forced to wait because Ghosts excites me a little bit more. But I am very excited to jump into Shadow of the Tomb Raider when I finish Ghosts, and while waiting for Marvel's Avengers in September, which is another game that I am so excited for. Next, we're going to be going into a topic regarding one of the biggest games out at the moment, which is, of course, Fortnite. And the question is simple. It's, what is my opinion on Fortnite? And to be honest, I don't play Fortnite. I used to play back in the first, chapter, the first however many seasons. I started back in season 1 or 2, fell off. I jumped back in season 4 or 5, fell off again. And then I think I jumped in right at the beginning of chapter 2 just to see what was different. But that game has such a steep learning curve, and something that I struggle a lot to understand and to learn. The building mechanics don't quite click with me. But nevertheless, my opinion on Fortnite is that it is such an important game. The things that game has done for the video game medium is like, it is crazy to think of what that game has been able to achieve, and not just as a video game, but how it interacts with real world things, and like film, for instance. They had a Star Wars event. Marshmello had a live concert within the game. I just think that what the people over at Epic are doing is truly amazing. And this game, I see its legs are extra long. I can see it carrying on being a big talking point for years to come. And I have to say, it is such an awesome game that it is here. Here this year, you can play it. It's free. It's polished. It works. It's big, and I don't see it going away anytime soon. And I think what it has done for video games will change the future of video games for good. So I'm very excited to see how it impacts all games that are still to come. Next up, we're going to be talking about what is my favorite weapon I've ever used in a video game. And this answer came straight to mind. It's pretty recent, from 2018, and that is the Leviathan axe from God of War. Oh my word. When hearing about the Avengers game, thinking, oh, that would be cool. Thor's hammer would be so cool, throwing Mjolnir and calling him back. And God of War just did it for us. And they did it perfectly, I think. The Leviathan axe was such a fun weapon to use. First of all, just in plain combat, being able to, use light and heavy attacks, and it has the special abilities as well. But nothing beats throwing the Leviathan axe at enemies, pinning them down, and being able to punch them. But of course, the best is pressing triangle after you've thrown it and calling it back and catching it. And the DualShock 4 would just vibrate perfectly just to, mimic catching that axe, or Kratos catching that axe. My favorite weapon by far in a video game, hands down, the Leviathan axe from God of War. If you haven't played God of War, check it out. Give that axe a throw, call it back. You'll understand exactly what I'm saying. Next up, we're going to be talking about my favorite song in a video game, and I'm going to be cheating a little bit here. I've got 3 answers. First of all, is my official favorite song from a video game is very recent, and that is from The Last of Us Part 2, and that is Future Days. I won't say too much on it. You need to play this game and experience why I like this song so much, but it is a big part in the game. It does occur over and over throughout in different iterations, but it was so good. It almost brought me to tears. And yeah, just simply you have to experience it. I can't explain it to you without spoiling the game, so I'd really recommend you go check it out if you haven't. And another little cheat, because I'm giving a second answer here, is from Red Dead Redemption 2, and that's the house building song when you build a house. And oh my word, what fun it is. It becomes a timing game. It becomes a build in time with the music, which is something I did not expect, and I definitely did not expect to enjoy as much as I did. It was so much fun. And the song's very catchy. Go give it a listen. Go give it a search on YouTube if you've never heard it. It's a very, very fun song. But I have one more answer, and this is the biggest cheat of all, because this game is not even out yet, and it's not necessarily even in the game, but it's rather with the trailer of the game, and that is the Bugsnax song. And if you do not know what I'm talking about, you can pause the podcast here, go over to youtube.com and search Bugsnax reveal trailer. You're welcome. It is the catchiest song. It is so cool. It got me interested in a game that I would probably not even have looked at twice. So I'm so excited to see if they feature the song in the game, but I'm more interested to see what Bugsnax is. So yeah, I know it's cheating giving 3 answers, but all 3 totally different kinds of songs, totally different roles in their video games respectively, but each one so much fun, so cool, and so impactful in their different ways. The next question we're going to be going into is one of the biggest debates in video games, and that is Xbox or PlayStation. Simple answer for me, the answer is PlayStation. I did own an Xbox 360, but when we came to the current generation, I decided to move over to PlayStation. I got the PS4, and I have no regrets. The first-party lineup that Sony have been able to put together with the PlayStation 4 has been absolutely incredible. They have been my favorite games on the console, and I look so forward to getting the PlayStation 5 and just carrying on to experience that first-party lineup that Sony have just worked so hard to get out and to get so polished and so critically acclaimed. So yeah, PlayStation is my ecosystem. I so look forward to getting the PS5. I totally respect Xbox. I love Xbox. I would get one as well if I had that money. But when you have to decide between the two, I had to go with PlayStation for myself. I do also own a Nintendo Switch. I know that wasn't in the question, but I love my Nintendo Switch. Games like Animal Crossing, Mario Kart, Zelda Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey, all games that I love to pieces. But I would definitely say that PlayStation 4 is my main console of choice, especially for third-party games, and of course for first-party games. But yeah, that's the answer to that question, PlayStation. And now we're coming up to the last question, and that is, what is your favorite game from your childhood? And this is a game that I played back in 2011, if I remember correctly, and it's called Skylanders Spyro's Adventure, a Toys to Life game from Toys for Bob. It was so much fun. It was a game where you basically had a portal, a physical portal connected to your console, in my case a Wii, and you would place the Skylanders on the portal and they'd go into the game. I actually have it right here. I'm just going to grab it. So this is the portal, and you would connect this to your console with the micro USB, and then you would turn on the portal, and then it would kind of light up. I don't know if you can see it lighting up in this light, and then you get a Skylander kind of figures that they all had their own. They had an element that they're associated with, and then each of them had their own characteristics, their own abilities, and you would place them on the portal. And then that would put them in the game. And I could not comprehend how this was possible at the time. You know, it was literally bringing my toys to life. And I had so much fun with this game. I played the heck out of it, played it at least 3 times through, leveled up all my Skylanders to max level. And 2 friends and myself collected all 32 Skylanders from the first game. I learned every Skylander's name by heart, and I think I can still recite all their names if I tried really hard. And I went on to play the sequel, Skylanders Giants, but slowly fell off and then fell off the games after that, just because collecting the toys was very expensive and a bit tough. But it was my favorite game from my childhood. It was so much fun. You know, just being able to choose your favorite characters, but having a physical version of them was something that was just so different to any other game I'd ever played. And I would definitely say, if someone had to ask me what my favorite game from my childhood was, it would definitely be Skylanders Spyro's Adventure. And that concludes all the questions. These are just 12 simple questions so you could get to know me as a gamer a little bit more. If you have any other questions, I'd love to hear them. You can email them to me at talknerdywithme21@gmail.com. If you want to write in a question of any kind, a topic to discuss on the show, a simple one word answer question, you're more than welcome to do so. But if you want to write in an answer to any of the questions I asked, feel free to do so. I'd love to hear what your favorite game of all time is. I'd love to hear what console you prefer to play on, and any answers to any of the questions that I spoke about in this podcast. I can't wait to hear from you guys. I can't wait to get connected with you guys. I hope you guys are so ready to talk nerdy with me, and I'm so excited for all the future episodes of this podcast. But yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. Thank you so much for joining me for this first episode. It was a short one, but it was just an introduction to who I am. Once again, I'm Nicholas Merrington. This is the Talk Nerdy With Me podcast. If you want to follow us on Instagram, you can do so at Talk Nerdy With Me podcast. If you want to email in, as I said earlier, talknerdywithme21@gmail.com. Please subscribe to us on YouTube or the podcast service you prefer to listen on. I'm so excited to get to know you guys better and to connect with you. And thank you again for joining and for listening. See you guys next week.